Everything working?
Yeah, I can see it on other browsers, so we're good.
Cool.
So we can start. Um, we can start talking because we're kind of unofficially started. You know what I mean? But welcome whoever decides to join us, and or for future viewing. Thank you for watching. We're Jerry Senior and Jerry Junior, and we're here to just talk about some of our favorite things in entertainment, media, comics, animation, TV or movies, you name it. We'll talk
Good
about it.
morning.
Good morning to you. Happy Saturday. Um, Welcome. Thanks for joining us. And today we were going to talk about, we were actually talking about a little bit before we started, but about our favorite tropes, you know, whether just story tropes in general, whether it's movies or TV or comics or books. Um, but not just favorite. I want to touch on favorites, but also the ones we don't like, right? You know, so
Oh, sure. Yeah.
you can't talk about what you like without broaching what you don't like, right? So I'll let you begin if you have something in mind. Uh, kick it
Oh,
off.
I don't know if you wanted to start, but so I was talking to my brother, and we were talking about story tropes that are cool, and the only reason I he brought it up is because a lot of people when they say when they complain about tropes in a movie, tropes themselves aren't bad.
Right, I agree. I agree.
It's just the way they're utilized that tends to turn people off. You know, it's not really a it's they're just a tool for storytelling, right? Because people expect the reality is people expect a certain pattern when they go see a movie, right? So like that's why we have the hero's journey and all that good stuff,
Right.
right? It's a series of it's a pattern that's recognized.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably the most recognizable pattern in storytelling, right? The hero's journey. So
Yeah.
uh, tropes aren't bad, and there's a
Right.
lot
I
of.
agree. They're not.
And I think instead of talking about, I feel like for the most part there aren't any bad tropes. There are just tropes that are that tend to get utilized poorly, right? So, for example, I guess one trope, if you want to call it that, that that gets thrown around a lot is like the edgy hero. I guess is that's the best way I could say it, or
Yeah.
the edge lord as people say it, right? Uh, the so like for example, you know, uh, oh, yeah, we just watched it. I don't know if would you consider My Hero fans, would you consider Bakugo an edgelord? He's just kind of a jerk. I don't know. I don't know if he's an
I
I don't
mean,
know if he's an edge.
I guess. I mean, I'm old, so edge lord is a new term for me. So I'm like, okay.
Well, it's like
He's just an edgy character, right? He's just a guy that's kind of
yeah,
edgy for
like
edgy sake.
pulling
Like there's
from
no necessarily a good reason for him to be edgy. He just is, right?
yeah. Or I guess
And yes,
the
I mean,
classical term would be the Byronic hero. If you want to,
yeah, or I mean, you could say anti-hero, right? Where he's not,
or
he
the
doesn't fit the classic hero trope of being the all-around good guy that saves the day and does the right thing all the time for the right reasons all the time. You know, the Boy Scout persona, like we ascribe to like Superman per se,
yeah,
right? So yeah, he's
yeah,
definitely that. He's definitely edgy and brash and harsh, and he's brutally honest, right? All that good stuff. And but he's still a hero, right? He still does the right thing when it's needed, right? Especially when it's needed
right.
most, right? And that can be a lot of fun. I don't have an issue with quote unquote edge lords. I guess that's fine.
No, that's the thing. Is like something like I guess to name another example. Just because I've been playing a lot of fighting games recently, like it's the difference between Ryu in Street Fighter
Yeah.
versus I'll say Jin Kazama in Tekken. Tekken
that could
3,
be a lot of
right?
fun.
Ryu is
I don't have
the
an issue with that.
quintessential, he fights for to get stronger and for justice and things like that.
Yeah,
And Jin Kazama um, is he's not really fighting for altruistic purposes. He's more so fighting to like I know you never played Tekken, but he's like somebody killed his mom in the third game, and so he
hmm
enters the tournament to try to fight them and things like that.
yeah,
And he ends up getting betrayed by his. It's a whole generational thing. He ends up being betrayed by his grandfather. He hates his dad. The dad hates everybody. There's a lot of morally great characters in Tekken. Is what I'm getting at. The only
yeah.
true
Right,
hero
right.
in Tekken are like a couple of the side characters,
Yeah,
but like
yeah. But
yeah,
everyone else is right. They're kind of quote unquote tainted, right?
yeah,
They're not fighting for the purest of reasons, right? It's more
yeah,
like revenge or
hmm
avenging or revenge or
right,
payback, that kind of stuff. It's you know,
hmm
and that's fine. Those can be I like Tekken too, but it's like you don't want it overdone,
Hey,
right?
you had the movie. Yeah,
Yeah,
you had the.
yeah. I was gonna say. I mean,
Yeah,
Tekken was great, but you just have to appreciate it for what it is, right? Like
yeah,
there's stories that celebrate heroes and heroism, and there's stories that deconstruct it, or at least question it, right? And or demonstrate sort of the dark side of like what when you're looking at things that are more grounded, heroes aren't exactly these pure souls, right? They're like Rambo is a good example, right? Of you know,
oh yeah,
it's like he was a veteran and all this stuff, and he would be considered a hero, right? Because he fought for his country, right? But then in that movie,
hmm
because he suffered from PTSD and everything, it's like he was more of an anti-hero. He was a sympathetic character ultimately, right? Um,
yeah.
and technically, he was the bad guy, right? The law
Oh
was
yeah, but
going after
in that
him,
movie,
and I know the law, the local law enforcement were basically jerks, but I'm just saying he still wasn't this sort of pure hero either, right? He was pretty
yeah,
brutal. But in later movies, right, the sequels, he was more of a hero, right? He was out there,
right.
um, doing missions and all that good stuff. And the last one that he
hmm
made was really, actually, really good. So
Oh really?
yeah, I enjoyed it, and he was more of a hero.
Okay.
But once again, it was the more anti-hero trope, right? Where it's kind of like he's just doing it because it's like, look, no one else is gonna do it. It's like it's almost the lesson, the subtext is the world needs people, particularly men like him, who's willing to do the dirty work, right? Who's willing to
Yeah,
for the sake of others who can't do it, right? Those who because I think they're like missionaries or something, and they're
yeah.
peaceful and they're Christian and they're they're not warriors, right? They're not, and so you have to go in and kind of save the day, so to speak. So, and that's fine. I like stuff like that as well, because it's
Yeah.
true. It's reality, right? Like yeah, in reality, you know, the best men are men who are dangerous but under control, right? You
Right.
and that's just
That,
something
well,
you
that goes into I think you mentioned it earlier. Uh, I guess if you the, the whole I think it's called or the people call it the retired badass or whatever. Like the guy
yeah,
where it's
yeah,
like they're that phrase from The Godfather. Just when I thought I was out, they pull me back in. That kind of thing.
yeah, yeah, exactly, yeah. And those are fun. Those are those are great stories. you know,
Yeah.
um, like even something far more recent is an example of that is ISOM by Eric July, right? Ripperverse. That's kind of how
Oh yeah.
his story goes, where he's sort of this. Well, it doesn't necessarily say he's retired, right? It's just he's just not doing it anymore for whatever reason. And we find out in Ison too. Sorry to spoil it. The reason why
Oh
is
you have
just
this.
because he kind of failed at protecting someone. But it's like, yeah, he's like called back in because there's
Yeah.
a loved one that's close to his family, whatever, that goes missing, and then it kind of unravels this whole other mystery and adventure. So, but yeah, it's like that's kind
Okay.
of what he did, right? That was a
Yeah.
cool trope.
Or
Yeah, that was I like that.
what's it
Yeah,
called? The Incredibles, Mr. Incredible.
yeah, that's a
Um,
great one. Yeah,
Solid
yeah,
Snake from the Metal
yeah,
Gear
Solid Snake.
series.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, these are those are tropes I like. It's like, yeah, like I'm back. you know, and
Yeah, yeah.
that could be a lot of fun, right? You could really do some cool stuff with that. Even like remember the movie Red with Bruce Willis. You know,
Oh,
same
I
thing.
think you told me
Retired,
about.
retired, like CIA or something like that, and
Mm-hmm.
he's living his life, and it's kind of boring. He's in the suburbs, but then something happens, and he's found by his enemies, his old enemies or whatever, and they try to
Right,
take him out, and he survives, of course. And now he's like, okay, here we go. I got to get the team back together.
right,
And it's like it's a lot of fun because it's a lot of old timers. You got John Malkovich in there. He's always interesting and fun to watch. And but it's a fun movie, because you got
okay,
these retired guys back on the scene, and because they have that experience, though, you know, they can kind of outsmart, the younger generation of bad guys, right? Whatever it is, or other, and also other agents, right, who are brand, and they kind of have that dynamic as well. So I like that. That's a lot of
right.
fun. So those are tropes. I don't think I'll ever get tired of those kind of tropes. Um, I think they're always fun to explore and do some great
Like I
stories.
said,
So
tropes aren't bad. It's just like I said, some of them aren't always poor. Some are poorly utilized. Like I was recently, someone did a really good um uh analysis of the original, not the original, but the Michael Bay Transformers movies,
mm-hmm.
and the reason why, even like the first one, the reason why they don't really work is uh is because everybody in the town, or the every all the humans are jerks.
Right.
They're just mean spirited people, and most Michael Bay movies, I mean, he tends to make people, you know, not nice.
Yeah.
Like nobody really
Yeah.
gets along in a Michael Bay film. That's the way you
Yeah.
put it. Really great YouTuber on the Pointless Hub. You should check him out. But he's right, and it's like you can't have all of humanity be a bunch of jerks to each other, and then have
Yeah.
Optimus Prime give a speech about how humanity there's still hope for
Yeah. They're
humanity.
Still good, and
It
it's
doesn't
like,
work.
well, apparently not, because everyone's a jerk in this. So, yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. It's a strange. Well, it goes back to what we were talking about the other day about postmodern thinking and nihilistic. It's
Yeah.
like this sort of very cynical perspective on the world, right?
Mhm.
And
Like you could have like that, but there has to be some kind of turnaround. Like that's why I liked if you ever do you ever see that Christmas movie Klaus, yeah, Klaus.
oh yeah, yeah, that was very good. Beautiful,
Yeah,
beautiful
like
movie.
everybody in that town was a jerk, but then through the power of Christmas,
Yeah. Well,
they
except
became.
except for the postman. You know.
Well, no, the postman too. Everybody except for
Well, no, the
the
postman
leaders of the
wasn't a,
town.
wasn't a jerk. He came in there. I
No,
mean,
the postman started off as a jerk, and then
well,
he met, and then through doing his job and interacting with the people, everybody became better people.
well, yeah, that's what I mean. I don't think he was a jerk necessarily.
Well,
Um,
I mean, in the
he,
movie, like he starts off as like a spoiled brat,
yeah,
and the
he
whole
was yeah,
reason he's
right,
sent
yeah,
to
he
the
was kind of just unappreciative, right? And then
yeah,
he gets thrown into this town where everyone's worse, far worse than
Oh no,
that.
oh I agree. Everyone is far
That's
worse.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like he wasn't that bad, you know. But
But
yeah,
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 but
that's a good example.
but the meme town works because everybody gets better. Like no
Yeah,
humans in the
right.
Transformers movie are redeemable. They're just all
Yeah, they don't.
like
Well, they don't
we get to
change.
know.
They don't. They
Yeah.
there's no like. There's no real even from, yeah,
Matter of
from the
fact,
first one all the way to the latest one, right? Which I think
yeah,
is
all
the
of them. As a matter
Residence.
of fact, they get worse. Like they go from like
It's just bang
by the time
boom,
that
you know, punch, run, fight, get the thing, stop the other guys from getting the thing.
what's
In
not just that,
the
but
end.
by the time of like the fifth movie, the humanity's actively trying to kill the Transformers. Like
Yeah,
they don't like.
for some reason, yeah, like it's not really
Yeah,
clear why.
no doubt.
It's like what? Yeah, I
So
mean,
it's
yeah, it's I agree. It's amazing that they've made so much money that they kept making more. I
well
guess
because
because
gotta have
kids and
fire.
toys, I mean,
Yeah,
they're selling toys and they're, that's really it because they're not great stories, right? They're, you know,
yeah.
they're just not, and it's kind of like the Godzilla movies, right? I mean, stop giving us all these human stories and just show us the monsters, have them fight.
Well, it's
Same
not
thing with
that. It's
robots.
not
Like,
the.
just show us the Transformers, and the humans are kind of secondary. They don't have to be, unless it's going to
Well,
be OG, Generation One with Spike and everything, his dad and all that stuff. I don't, the
yeah.
human characters have been incredibly uninteresting. So,
Well, that's the problem is that they're uninteresting. It's not that people. It's not that there shouldn't be any human. It's just that
well, no, that's what I
they
mean. Though. They're uninteresting, so stop focusing on them so much. Just show us the robots, fight.
it's
Give us the
like
drama with the
in
robots, not with the humans. I mean, I heard,
like in
yeah.
well, I was gonna say like Godzilla for example.
You mean
I really
Godzilla
enjoy.
minus one, or
Well, not just Godzilla minus one, although that one had really good. But that's because it took an approach similar to the 1954 movie,
right?
where it was a more human story and
It was
Godzilla was
right,
the bad guy.
exactly
That's the
right,
main
yeah,
difference, right?
yeah.
Godzilla
But
movies
not only
is
that,
either
but the human
versus Godzilla
stories,
or it's
they were compelling and interesting too. They weren't just filler, right? The stories were,
no,
you know, compelling. They were relatable and interesting story arcs, right? That appeal to, most of us. Like we're watching, going, yeah, I can kind of relate to that
mhm,
dynamic of the fear and everything, and dread
yeah,
and despair, but also hope, right? And I think
mhm,
that's why it's done so well. Um,
yeah.
because like, but you look at who is it? I think it's Legacy Films. Is that the name of the company that's doing the
For the
The
Godzilla movies,
American versions? Yeah, and we like King of the Monsters. Like I think King of the Monsters so far was probably my favorite one,
Godzilla, King
just
of the
because
Monsters is definitely the best one.
even though the the story, the human characters, like with the mom, I didn't like the mom. I didn't care for her. But
I mean, that's what it's about.
I like
She's
the
the bad guy.
dad. I like the dad because of the resentment from losing their kid, their son.
Yeah.
And that scene where Godzilla kind of rises out of the water, and the dad kind of gives him
Mhm.
this side eye, And I don't know,
Yeah.
it's something about that I really like because that made me like the movie even more because I thought there's like some kind of catharsis or resolution within him where he's like, it's almost like he didn't intentionally murder your child, right? He's this force of nature.
Yeah.
It's no different
Right.
than if your kid, was there's a like Lion King, right? There was a stampede because
Yeah.
the animals were spooked because of lightning. Whatever it is. It's like it's just something that was out of
Hmm.
anyone's control, right? And you have to just come
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
that resolution about it. And I
Yeah.
like that scene because of that. Like it was like, okay, obviously there's like, because he expressed all this doubt, right, and reservations about Like, why are you guys trying to track this monster and like incite it and get it? It's like,
Hmm.
what are you doing? And he was like sort of the voice of reason throughout up to that point in the movie. And it was like he
Yeah,
finally kind of came to grips with the reality. Like, look, yeah, I guess we kind of need this force of nature. Like,
yeah.
and I just have to accept it. You know,
Hmm.
so I like that. The mom was redeemed a little bit at the end. She made the sacrifice, which kind of wasn't
Yeah,
necessary,
I
but
mean,
still.
she was the bad guy. So I mean, it's not. I mean, the whole point was, yeah, humanity sucks. We're gonna use the monsters to. I mean, it's the whole
Right. Well,
Thanos
that's
mentality.
the what is it, monarch? I guess,
That's
right.
what.
That's what their belief
Yeah,
is we're gonna purify the world with the monsters or something like that. Or they
yeah.
kind of worship the monsters, which okay, that's fine. It makes for a great sort of villain, right? Um, Antagonist. So
Mhm.
I did. So to say, I like that movie more than the other one. I mean, all of them are they're spectacles. Kong versus Godzilla. That was okay, but it was just a terrible story. They just wasted Mechagodzilla like completely. So that was sad.
I mean, I guess. I mean, I
It was
wasn't.
way too. It was way too. That whole fight scene.
I think it was too quick
That's what I'm saying.
for
It was
sure.
like you guys just wasted this whole.
But I mean, there's nothing stopping them from bringing back
I know.
Mechagodzilla,
They,
though.
yeah, they can always rebuild it. And, yeah, so that's
Yeah.
fine. I mean, but it was just like all this build up to Mechagodzilla. It was like that's it. Not to mention the design was bad, but that's beside the point. But getting back to
The what?
tropes, right? The design, I didn't
Oh,
like his design. It was bad.
oh yeah, no.
It wasn't very good at all. Go back to the OG,
But
Mechagodzilla.
I think well, that's the thing is with Godzilla movies, it's either it's either man versus nature,
Right.
which in this case is humanity versus Godzilla, or it's Earth versus space. So either Godzilla, people have
Well,
to
yeah,
take
that's true.
Godzilla to fight something from out of the world. So it's either like Space Godzilla or King Ghidorah or something like that.
Yeah,
So it
because
really just depends on what the dynamic of the story is. What's cool about the Heisei series is um they did treat Godzilla as a part of nature throughout the whole series, right?
yeah,
They were continuously like learning new stuff about Godzilla. It's like, oh, he has the same sonar, I guess, abilities as birds or something. Like when they go south for the winter.
yeah, that's right. Yeah,
Oh,
I remember
he's got two brains because he's too big. It's like, oh, so
that. I mean, yeah, I I agree. Yeah, it was better handled.
and also there was a lot of characters that were it was kind of the same split where it's like, oh, we need to kill Godzilla. Oh, we need to learn about him so we could coexist with him
Yeah,
because there are other monsters.
right. Because it
And
was
then
like this
there's the
incidental
really bad
thing.
guys.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and then there's the really bad guys who are like, I'm gonna take Godzilla cells and make my own monster because I'm an insane person. Well, actually, no. I think one of the movies was like, I'm gonna use Godzilla's DNA to create medicine, but then the medicine turns into a giant plant monster.
Of course it does.
Oops.
Science gone wrong. That's another trope.
Yeah, yes,
Science
yes.
gone
Science
wrong.
gone
Right.
wrong. Yeah,
Yeah, and
yeah,
I like that too.
yeah.
It's
So
either
yeah.
it's either science gone right where the character gets powers or an ability because of a
Mhm. Yeah.
scientific accident. The classic one is Spider Man, right? It's he becomes Spider Man. But then there's the science gone wrong, like Doctor Jekyll, Mister Hyde, right? Where he turns into
Brother,
or
the
the
Hulk.
Incredible Hulk, right? He turns
Yeah.
into a monster, and, or unleashes the monster within. That's kind of
Hmm.
and those are great tropes too. I like those. They're generally fun, um, and they can lead to some good introspective thinking about the nature of man, and even the responsibility we have with knowledge. Right, just because you
Hmm.
can do it doesn't mean you should do it.
Doesn't
Right.
mean you could. Yeah.
What's that?
No, I was just saying doesn't mean you should. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, yeah. So I like that's something I like. I like the chosen one. A lot of people in recent years seems to not like the concept of a chosen one character. But then there's the Matrix, right?
Mm,
I mean, Neo he was the one, literally, right? He was the one, Neo, right?
yeah,
And it was great. I mean, at least the first movie, maybe debatably the first two movies, right? It's a great story, great adventure. So it worked, So I don't have a problem with that. I still like that idea of the one, the chosen one, the one
yeah.
that will
Well, like I say, it's one of
create.
those things
Right.
that has to be executed right.
Right. It just has to be executed. I mean, honestly, most tropes are fine, right? Um, but it's all about execution, right? It's about
Yeah.
the story that utilizes those tropes. Are they good?
Hmm.
Are they well done? Um, I know one that I'm getting tired of is the girl boss trope. That's become a more recent trope, right? The female heroine that has to overcome the patriarchy. you know, it's like
Well, yeah.
eye
Well, I
roll to the
think
back of your head. So
I think the term. I don't know any real people who use that term, but
well, yeah,
I
it's
think
it's
the
it
key
floats it
issue.
floats around in critiques of the concept of the girl boss, right?
Yeah. Well, I think the issue is I think people's interpretation of what strong is or being strong uh, is they think it's just like like they think it's just a physical thing, and and then or
Yeah,
excuse me, and then
yeah,
B they think that in order for a woman to be strong, she has to be physically strong. One of my favorite movies
mm,
growing up was The Secret of Nim,
yeah.
right?
That was a great movie.
And,
Yeah,
yeah, it was a great movie, and the main character was she was a mom. She
yeah,
was I forgot her name. She was a great character,
you're right.
and you know,
And it was all
and
about
throughout the
protecting
whole
her children.
yeah,
Yeah,
and like
protecting
she
her
goes on
home.
this
Yeah,
adventure. She goes outside of the village. She learns
mm,
like this. She learns the secret of Nim,
yeah, yeah.
and
She meets all these
encounters all these.
interesting, mysterious
Yeah,
characters, and and at the end of the day, it was always about protecting her home. That's
yeah,
all it was. It was like I need to protect my home, my children. We can't be forced to leave. We can't allow what's happening outside of us change what's happening here, right? Like we have to
yeah.
protect our. And it was a beautiful movie. It had nothing to do with her. I remember when I was a kid watching that, and I'm sitting there going, "When is she going to get the powers and start zapping things?" That's like that. That was my mindset as
Yeah,
a kid. I'm like
yeah.
watching this, going, "Okay, when is she going to like use that necklace and become uber powerful and start kicking butt?"
Hmm.
And she never really did. Right at the end, it was just sort of this magical thing that happens and it saves her home, right?
Hmm.
And it's like that's all it was. And I was kind of like, that was it, But at the same time, I was like, that was kind of awesome though. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
it was like it wasn't disappointing. It just wasn't what I expected because
yeah,
I
exactly.
was used to like action packed adventure,
Hmm.
and this wasn't. It was very nuanced and very just very well written,
Hmm.
and had a nice pacing to it. That at the time, I wasn't in a space to understand that fully, right? Being a
Right.
kid, but later on, rewatching it, over and over, it's like, yeah, it just gets better every time I watch it. I'm like, yeah, this is really good.
Yeah.
You can
Or
appreciate it
yeah.
way more, the nuance. And yeah, that's a great example. It's like you can say she was a girl boss or female heroine, and it's kind of like, well, yeah, but it wasn't about usurping masculinity in any way. It was about tapping into her femininity as a mother, right? That's really at the end of the day what saved the day was her being a mother, loving her children in her home so much, and unlocking that power, right? That saved everyone, including her home and her children, right? And it had nothing to do with her having to become something else. You know what I mean? Like she didn't have to become more masculine or, like you said, physically stronger. She just simply had to be what she was, which is a mother that
Yeah.
just loved her kids so much, right? And
Or even if you want to talk about action movies like what's it called? Alien, like the first Alien,
yeah, yeah,
the
yeah,
first two,
exactly.
whatever,
Yeah,
with
Sigourney Weaver.
is
Yeah,
yeah,
and
a big
she's
part of that.
yeah Ripley. She's protecting a little girl. By the end of the third act, right? It's like, you know
Well,
what I
even
mean?
that is just like
It wasn't
the fact that
about
she is so vulnerable that makes the alien. I mean, all of them were they were working on the ship, they were abandoned, and it's just the fact that you know that she's so vulnerable and she's able to overcome this giant alien monster
yeah, but not only
that
that, but
makes the story so
the giant
compelling.
alien monster was a mother. So it was
Oh,
a battle between two mothers at the end, right? She became like a mother to the little girl, and then she's battling this alien that was laying eggs, and she destroyed all her eggs.
that's
So it's a battle
that's
between
true.
two moms, basically. I mean, you understand? Like, and it's spectacular. It's something we've never forgotten, right? It's
Hmm.
etched in our brains forever. It's a brilliant movie, right? And it's rewatched over and over again. And it had nothing to do with down with the patriarchy nonsense, right? It was simply a story being told, and the hero happened to be a woman, right?
Hmm.
It wasn't about her being stronger, smarter, faster. It was she just survived. She was
Right,
able to survive, and at the end, she realized I just gotta fight now. Like I really gotta fight now. I can't just let this thing have its way, right?
right.
So it's brilliant, and there's so much, so much more just underground and I mean, yeah, and I mean Underworld and Resident Evil. And, it's like they're all powerful, capable, cool female characters, and it has
I
nothing to
think
do
well the
with
issue with
you know
is with the way a lot of female characters written nowadays, and this goes for I mean a lot of characters written nowadays, is that they it's 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 not just the I guess the girl boss whatever, but it's a lot of characters in a lot of modern stories is they think they could ignore the hero's journey, and even though because they're afraid of I don't know, I guess they're afraid of making the protagonist seem vulnerable for some reason.
yeah,
But that's
yeah,
that's part of the character growth, right?
right. I mean, that's the whole point. It's like, yeah, there's you can
That's kind
see
of the
that there's
real under that's kind
this
of the underlining
apprehension.
issue.
Yeah, you don't want your character to be vulnerable and weak, so you have to overcompensate, right? You just
Yeah.
have to make it where they're not weak at all, and it's just because they lack opportunity or something,
Yeah.
or they
Like
just
even like the most manliest, like I talk a lot about this is the North Star, right?
yeah.
But like when we're introduced to Kenshiro, he's not kicking butt and he's literally starving and that he literally just got his ass kicked by his best friend
Yeah.
who stole his girlfriend and went off to become, to go conquer the earth, whatever. And he's starving in the middle of the desert.
Yeah, I mean,
And it isn't until a little girl, and yeah, honestly, it isn't until he's arrested in prison for trying to drink water that a little girl has mercy on him, gives him some food, right? That's like the only, and then that's, you know what I mean? It's like
yeah,
he's not, he's vulnerable,
yeah,
and this
right.
is the dude who
He doesn't
punch
start off
people
uber
and they
powerful. Yeah,
explode.
exactly.
I mean, he is, but we don't know that. We just see this guy, you know, we
Yeah,
don't recognize that he's still human. You know what I'm saying?
exactly. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So it's, I think, yeah, I think part of part of that we need to see even the most broken characters. We need to see them struggle in some way. Even like with like One Punch Man, right? His struggle is more existential.
It is.
and financial. He's broke.
Right.
you know.
Despite his
So
great power, right? Yeah.
yeah, right.
But that's
And
that.
a lot of
But that's what
part of
makes
that
him
is
interesting, right? Like, yeah,
yeah,
yeah, I agree.
you know,
Because and that's the thing. That's kind of the beauty of a lot of anime. That's an anime trope where you have a character that is already powerful, that's already very strong and capable, and then through their journey they become more capable and stronger, and they acquire new knowledge and skills, right? And they still
yeah,
remain interesting, right? Um, that's that's something I appreciate about a lot of anime stories, right? It's like because and that's what it's not just about the character has to start weak and become strong. Sure, that's one approach, right? But it's also it could be the character is already strong and capable, but they can become more so, right? And but the way they become more is the journey. It's what makes them interesting. It's how they become more, or it could be they are, but then they lose it somehow. Now they have to figure out how do I get it back,
yeah.
and maybe
Well,
appreciate it.
either way,
Like
part of
Thor
the
is a good
journey.
example. The first Thor,
Yeah,
where
yeah,
he was already uber strong, powerful. He had the hammer, right, and he
hmm
loses it because he becomes arrogant, right, and he doesn't appreciate it. And he's supposed to be become this great king one day, right, when his father moves on. And so the father said, I'm going to teach him a lesson. He's not worthy, and until he becomes worthy, he won't have this power. And so now he has to prove himself worthy, right? And as simple
right.
as the movie is, it's actually a pretty decent movie, especially watching it again. You can appreciate it even more how simple the story
Okay.
is and how it works very well to show like yeah he struggles and he tries to get the hammer. It's like he fights all these guys. He finally gets to it. He still can't lift it. It's like
Well,
it's a moment where he's just defeated. Kind of like what do I do? And
yeah,
that's a great moment. And later he finally does. He makes the ultimate sacrifice, and that's kind of like was the whole point. Like you have to stop looking at yourself all the time and realize like there's a greater responsibility placed upon you, and
hmm
accept that. And you know, so sometimes yeah, it's a matter of just how the story is told and what's the point of the story, what's the arc, what's the underlying theme, right? And a lot of times with newer stories, right, um, that goes into the whole Mary Sue stuff and all that, where it's like there's nothing there, there's no substance. So you're like, well, why am I watching this? Or why am I reading this story? Like this character is not growing. They've already arrived at where they need to be. So, and then where do they go from here? I don't know, because they don't take them anywhere. They just
yeah,
stay the same, and it's just the fact that oh look they're already great. Then things happen, and because they're great, they can conquer those things or they overcome those things.
yeah.
It's like
I
that's
mean, it's
boring.
an issue with a lot of, like I said, it's an issue with a lot of stories. I think one of the anime Jermaine likes to complain about is Sword Art Online. I don't know if you ever saw that one,
Yeah, yeah, he
but like,
complains about that a lot.
yeah. But yeah, but it's because the Kirito, the main character, he's not interesting. It's like he was he's established as, oh, I was a beta tester of the game, so I know everything about the game.
Yeah,
So he just, there's no weight to his victories, right? There's no and
yeah,
a lot of the style of animes that imitate Sword Art Online are kind of like that, where the protagonist doesn't really like earn
it
his
doesn't
way
grow. Yeah,
through.
well, it's not just
Yeah,
about.
things
It's like
kind of are
where
given.
does if he's already this brilliant video game tester or whatever, okay, then where does he go from there? What else is there for him to overcome or achieve? And that's the problem. It's like you can start off your character as super powerful, right? But then what's beyond that? Like even
Yeah,
Superman, like I always like to refer to the Richard Donner Superman, right? Where he crashes on Earth, he grows up, and he's already powerful. There is no like he has to train, blah blah blah, right? He's already really strong, powerful. He realizes his powers early on, right? He grows up on this farm, but what does he do? He throws this monkey wrench into this perfect life of Clark Kent, where his father dies from a stroke,
Yeah.
and it was nothing. And he says it right there at the funeral. He's like, all these powers, and I couldn't save him. There was nothing I could do.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's you understand. That's taking it to
Yeah.
the next, like realizing, like, hey, even with all your powers, you can do all
There's
these
some
amazing
stuff that's
things.
out of
There's
control.
still things that are out of your control, and then it pays off later with Lois Lane, right? And then this is where it gets ridiculous, where he reverses time. So that's where it falls apart. Because it's like, bro, like if he could do that, he should have did that with his dad, right? So that's where
Yeah.
the it gets destroyed, unfortunately.
Yeah,
It's
man.
like, cause I remember watching that going, did he just reverse time? Like, what? Is that even
Yeah.
how it works, right? It's like,
No, it's
it
not
was
how it
terrible.
works.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's as much as I love that movie, I hate that part. I really do. Even
I
as
don't know. I don't
even
hate
as
that
a
part.
kid,
That
even as
part
a
is so
kid, I was
ridiculous.
like, this is dumb. Like,
This
this is
is
dumb. I was so mad about that, and I still am to this
um,
day. I'll always resent that part of the movie because other than that, to me it's a perfect superhero movie. Right? It's a perfect Superman movie.
mhm.
But because of that, it's like, oh my god, just let him save Lois. Like you don't reverse time. Just have
I
him get
know.
there in
Yeah.
time to save her. Like, how about that? You know what I mean? Like, why not just have him get there in the nick of time, right? Where it looks like she's about to die, and then he comes in, digs her out, and resuscitates her or something. Like that's all you had to do instead of I'm gonna reverse time.
Yeah.
It's like, what?
Yeah.
Did you not learn anything from your father passing away? You can't reverse.
Yeah.
You can't. You gotta accept things. You have to accept your limitations, right? But he goes,
Mhm.
no, not this time. He reverses, and it's like, okay. So yeah, that's where it
And he
comes
never
from.
does
But
it again.
outside of that, yeah, it's like it's a great journey for him as a hero to find out that there's more to it than just powers, right? Like Lex Luthor is brilliant and he's conniving and he's deceptive, and it's like you have to overcome those things as well, right? And the impossible choices of who do you save first, right? I got two missiles going in two different directions. We saw it with who was it?
You know what could
Val
have been
Kilmer
a
as
better
Batman. The
ending?
same thing. What's that?
You know what could have been a better ending for that if
Well, for
Superman
Superman.
doesn't make it in time,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
But it's not him that saves Lois. It's normal people, right? The
I know that's a
paramedics.
good point. Like, what if it was Jimmy?
'Cause at that,
What if Jimmy
huh?
saved her? Like he
Yeah,
found her and he digs her out
and,
and tries to pull her out, and then the
and
paramedics
resuscitator.
come
Yeah,
and he's the one that, yeah, exactly.
yeah.
That
'Cause
would have
that would have
been
showed
like,
Superman he doesn't have to fight this battle
exactly.
against evil by himself.
Yeah. And you know what? That's interesting you bring that up because someone, I think it was Nando versus Movies. Shout out to his channel. I love his channel. He talked about Incredibles 2. And that's one of the ideas he had where in the third act, instead of, I mean, first, he completely changes the villain because the villain wasn't very good. But one thing he pointed out was instead of them, the way it ended with the ship, and it's like, what if the Underminer appears again and he's got his minions and he's like attacking? That was the whole point of what he was doing at the beginning. He paid it off with him attacking again. And this time, when the heroes are kind of overwhelmed because they have, they're trying to save people and they're trying to fight the Underminer and his minions, the people realize, hey, why don't we be our own heroes? Why don't we help fight? And they start to fight, and he turns the whole screen slayer thing around by saying, what if they use the screens to communicate to everyone to motivate them and encourage them, hey, help us fight and take down these guys, and the people do. They jump in and they start helping, and they're knocking out minions, and they're protecting stores and all this kind of stuff. And it's like I just thought, yeah, that's
Mm.
brilliant. Like that's exactly it. Like that's a better story, right? That's a better trailer, and it shows that yeah, even heroes have their limitations. So I agree with that. That would have been way better than reversing time.
Yeah.
Just Have
Yeah,
it where
I
yeah, like
still like watching
yeah.
that scene, but I understand how it doesn't
I
work.
mean,
There,
it's a beautiful scene in the sense that you realize that he really does care about Lois Lane, right? He really
yeah.
does. But it's like reversing time. Come on, man. Like
Yeah,
it's just too
but I
much.
think what makes it worse is that he never does it again.
Right. It's like if you could do that, bro, you
Like,
could just reverse everything. Go all the way back to the farm and save your dad.
yeah, that's it. Go
Like
save your
10
dad.
minutes before, like, Dad, let's get you to the hospital. You're about to have a stroke, right? Let's jump in the truck. We're heading. You know what? I'm just gonna fly you, right? Like seriously.
It's still better than the tornado
So the tornado. What
from
tornado?
Man of Steel.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I agree.
Because he
The
could have
tornado.
saved him.
Yeah, that
The
was.
dad was like,
Don't
no.
even get me started on that one. Like that's another trope, though. The tragedy that creates the hero,
Should I just
right?
let those people die? Yes, maybe. I don't know.
Well, it goes right. Once again, it's that postmodern cynical worldview, right?
Yeah.
It's like the government's gonna poke holes in you and make you a guinea pig. Well, not if he's super powerful.
Yeah.
I don't think they're gonna be able to, right? They don't know about
I mean,
kryptonite
because
yet, so
that's yeah, because that's what define. Because it's like you can't make Superman's parents so pessimistic because then Superman can't be
that's
Superman
right. Well,
because
that's
that's
but
where he
think
gets
about it.
his moral
That's
backbone
what
from his
happened though,
mom
right?
and dad.
But that's what happened in from Man of Steel to Batman vs Superman. He was pessimistic, right? He was brooding and depressed, and
And that is an example of a
so
bad edgelord.
so it was,
Superman can't be an edgelord.
yeah, it was at least consistent, right? But yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
It's
but he
like,
wasn't
what's the point?
Superman.
Yeah, like what's
Yeah,
the point? Why is he why even reveal yourself at all? Why not just
yeah,
go live and be a recluse and like
yeah.
like why save anybody?
Mm.
Why? Right? It's like that's the whole point. It's just so depressed. It's like celebrating despair. Why do we celebrate despair? You know, it's like I mean, like I said, that's another conversation about these people that don't actually like superheroes, right?
Mm.
But they love making movies about them to deconstruct them, right? And you know, I'm really tired of that personally,
Yeah.
and I think a lot of people are. So that's why we're doing what we're doing. Super galactic, fantastic dimension is a celebration of all things heroes, all things sci-fi, fantasy, action, adventure. Some of your favorite titles from long ago, right? Star Wars and Dune and Buck Rogers, Thundercats and Voltron and it's like it's all in this story. Like it celebrates all those things: the classical hero, the classical villain, and good being triumphant over evil. That's what this series is. That's what this IP is, and that's the goal. Is just celebrate those things and inspire people and encourage people and give you something to rally around and believe in and be encouraged by. Because despite like Superman, for example, the Richard Donner, it still inspired me, right? It still gave us a
Mhm.
sense of hope and
Yeah.
motivated us, right? And allowed us to believe in things that are good, and righteous. Whether you like the stories or not, or you're like, oh, they were lame or they were cheesy. Hey, man, sometimes cheesy is great. You know, it's
Yeah, I
great.
don't.
It's
Yeah, I
great
don't
on
think that
pizza.
can't be
It's great on a hamburger. It's great. It's
a.
great in a movie. So
Yeah,
cheesy, right?
yeah. I don't. I feel
But
like the whole. Yeah, that was cheesy. I feel like that's not a very good critique anymore.
no,
I
I
mean, it
agree.
depends on the
Yeah,
film, but I don't.
it's
When someone
not
says,
it's not valid. It's not.
because most of the time
It's
when
and it's
people
not
call
a
stuff
negative
cheesy,
either.
they're talking about, oh, this good thing happened in
Yeah.
this movie. Oh, that's cringe, dog. And it's like, why?
Yeah.
Why
Right.
is
Exactly. Why
why
is
is
that?
the
Yeah.
wholesome thing cringe? You know, it's silly.
Because we realize we're not wholesome, and it makes us feel, convicted in a way, right? When we see good
Yeah,
happen before us, whether it's in a movie or in real life, it does
yeah,
something to us. It makes us feel a certain thing, and some people embrace it and they love it, right? They appreciate it. Others, it convicts them. It makes them feel less than, right? Because it's like, well,
yeah.
I'm not as good as, right? And so they become cynical, or they're already cynical. And so the natural reaction when you're cynical is to reject things that are pure and good.
It just feels like people refuse to be inspired. You know, one
Yeah,
of my
yeah,
favorite.
that's part of
Uh,
yeah, that's a good point. It's like you're
yeah,
refusing to allow yourself to be happy.
yeah.
And
One of my
yeah,
favorite scenes in Fist of the North Star, when they meet when you meet Ray. Ray's kind of he becomes like Kenshiro's sidekick, whatever.
mm,
And when you introduce him, he's like this super scary assassin dude. Like he seems like he's the exact opposite of Kenshiro. He uses tricks. He can like slice people through the air. You know, he doesn't
right,
even have to touch them.
yeah,
You know, and so you think he's trouble. And there's a scene where like because he snuck into this village and he gets found by these two kids, it's a brother and a sister,
mm,
and he pulls something out of his pocket and it's a chocolate bar and he gives it to him. And the brother he snaps it because it's just one, so he snaps it in half and he hesitates, but he gives his sister the smaller piece or the larger piece. He gives his sister the larger piece,
mm,
and Ray he smiles at her and he says, "Yes, that's the way." And you learn later on in the arc that the reason why he's killing all these bandits and stuff is because he's searching for his sister.
yeah,
'Cause he has a younger sister, so it's
right,
like, oh, okay. So because he sees himself in the children,
right,
so it's like it's like it's like people. It's a great way to humanize this character that we were introduced
yes,
as being like cold blooded and stuff like that. It's
right,
like, oh, okay, he's a human being,
right,
cool, right?
yeah, and he's
So
not just purely cold blooded either, right?
yeah,
There is humanity within him. There is love, right?
yeah,
And and we gotta. I want to get back to that. We're celebrating those things and promoting those things, and you know,
you say you want to take back the love.
I don't want to take back the love. I want to express it through story, right? The love is it's always there. The problem is people ignore it. You know, they just reject it and
Mm,
ignore it. So let's put it out there. And I think there's a lot of people who, young and old, who are looking for inspiration and celebration of what is good.
mm.
So I think
I agree.
they're out there, and I think looking at sort of the downward spiral of a lot of these bigger properties, right? Like Disney and MCU, all that stuff, Star Wars, Universal, and Warner Brothers. And it's like it's because they keep putting out things that don't inspire, that don't celebrate
Yeah,
what's good. They're just cranking out products on one hand, and then two, they're placating these invisible, non-existent fans of diversity. It's like they're really just placating a very small minority of these DEI investment companies or whatever that they're
sure.
checking boxes. But the real audience out there, real people out there, they want good story. They want to be inspired. And regardless of the race or gender of the characters, just tell me a good story. Inspire me, encourage me, give me hope, celebrate something good and pure, right? Versus just crank out product. you know,
Yeah,
here's product. It's like that movie Soylent Green, right? It's just this generic food. Here, consume food,
man, I was
consume this
people.
thing. It's not. There's no preference. There's no. And that's like I recently watched the Marvels, right? And just because a friend of mine
From
saw
what?
the Marvels. You know the movie.
Oh, is
You ever
there
heard about the
a new?
Marvels? it's a
And
movie from the MCU. It has
is it
Captain
the?
Marvel, Ms. Marvel, and another you know
Oh,
Marvel.
I
I
kind of
can't
just
remember
forgot
her
it
name right
exists.
now. Yeah, and he watched it. And he was like, "It's awful. It's terrible, but it's also hilariously bad." So he was like, "You should watch it just to just to see how bad it is for yourself." I was like, "Okay." So I watched it. You know, your brother has Disney Plus, so I used his because I canceled mine. So so I watched it on Disney Plus, and yeah, he was right. It's an awful movie. It's like
Yeah, I
if
kind of forgot that existed.
yeah, if you're a you know 5 6 year old maybe or you're a elderly grandma or aunt and you want to take your grandkids to watch something that's pretty much harmless, sure,
Nah,
that's fine.
here's the thing.
No, I'm
I
saying
don't want to
it's
do
it's
kids
fine.
dirty
It's
like that.
I'm just saying like
Because here's the
it
thing.
doesn't add anything and it doesn't take away anything. It's just there. It's just product. You understand? Like it's like generic pop. Generic soda.
Yeah, but I
It's
feel
not.
yeah, but like
It's not any more harmful than regular or name brand. Like it's not gonna do anything worse or better. It's just there, and that's what this
I
movie
don't know.
is.
Here's
It's
the
just
thing.
a
We
movie.
say that a lot. Where it's like, oh, it's for kids, but it's like, no, we
No, I'm
can't.
not. That's
It's
that's
like
not what I'm saying. I'm
kids
not
have
saying
better.
it's for
Well,
kids. I'm just saying it's so generically bad. Like it's so generic. Little kids will probably watch it and be entertained for that moment. That then they'll just forget about it. You understand? Like and like I said, the grandmas and the aunties that want to do something with their kids, with the grandkids or the nieces and nephews. Oh, it's something to do. Let's go watch this product, and then we'll
yeah,
immediately forget about it as soon as we walk out of the theater or leave the living room, right? Like or change the channel.
right.
That's all I'm saying. Like it's not something that's gonna make you think and make you like, oh man, like you're not gonna be talking about it afterwards. Like, oh, remember that part when this happened? Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
It's not gonna be that at all. It's gonna be okay. What else is on? Like that's it. It's not gonna.
Yeah,
It doesn't do anything. It's just there. Like it's just there. It's so. It's not a great movie. It is a terrible movie, but it's not. It's also a harmless movie. Like it you don't gain anything. There's no insight. Like you can watch, you know, Endgame, Infinity War, Civil War, Winter Soldier, the first Iron Man, right? And walk away and you're thinking about like different aspects of humanity, right? Or what it means to be a hero. Or you're just thinking about, man, that was a great scene when he did this or when he said that, or right?
yeah,
This is not one of those movies.
yeah.
It's just not. It's just it's actually, believe it or not, worse than Captain Marvel, the Captain Marvel
And that
movie,
doesn't really
and that was
surprise
the
me.
most meh movie ever at the
I
time, at
never watched
least.
it.
The Marvels tops that. It's like, how can I be more uninteresting and boring? Oh, let's put three of them in there and have these cats and have a plot that's paper thin
What? Okay.
that steals from Spaceballs. Let's do that. And it only
Oh,
steals a little bit
I love
slither of
Spaceballs.
Spaceballs. Like it doesn't
Or you could
steal
just watch
all of
Spaceballs.
Spaceballs. No, it doesn't steal all of it. Just that one little slither. The most ridiculous joke of Spaceballs. Let's steal that. With no context to it though, other than and not only that, but it completely. It's like the reason why it's funny in Spaceballs is because Spaceballs understood this is impossible, right? It's so
Yeah, yeah.
ridiculous, right? But even in Spaceballs, it made sense. You know why? because the planet was in a dome, and they sucked the air
Oh
out
wait, are you
into
serious?
an actual bag, right? In the
Right?
Marvels, she sucks the air out of one planet and sends it to her planet. No dome, no. Just we're gonna take atmosphere from this planet and send it through a portal to another planet, and it's gonna just be fine. The oxygen will remain oxygen, and it's not gonna be affected by any other elements or you know.
So what
Like
you're
it's
telling me
the
is like
oxygen
really?
isn't connected to any other part of nature, like the sun or the moon, magnetic fields of the planet. None of that. It's just
Oh,
air.
okay.
That's how it works.
Mm.
Air is just air. You don't need plant life to recycle it in exchange for carbon dioxide. You don't need it. Science doesn't exist in the Marvels at all. At all. Like, you already have to suspend reality to a degree because they're superheroes, right? The Marvel says
Yeah.
all the remaining science, just throw it out the window. Just it doesn't matter.
See, this is
Logic
why.
itself is gone. There's no logic. There's no reason. There's no science. It's just here. Things happening. Things are happening. Planet. We're on this planet. We're on this planet. We're flying through space in this spaceship. We're teleporting. We're sucking oxygen. We're gonna make a new sun that only affects this one planet. It doesn't affect any other planet. Just this one planet.
Oh.
That's like that's like we're gonna steal the sun from Earth because Earth, right? We're the only ones that have a sun. Like our sun is just for us. It's the other
How it
the other eight
works.
the other eight planets in the solar system. They don't need the sun. The any other planets that
Yeah,
make they don't.
they're just borrowing it from Earth. But
It's like the sun, and the sun just sits in the sky like a light bulb, and we're gonna suck the energy from it, and then send it to this other sun that needs it. And that's how it works. And it's gonna just come together and be a sun. Like it's retarded. It's completely like I said. It's like
you're
a
not
4-year-old, 5-year-old wrote it. Like you know.
you're not joking either. Oh my goodness.
This is in the movie. This is in the movie,
How is
and that's just the tip of
how
the
is the
iceberg.
Guardians
I'm
of the
not even
Galaxy
touching on the
more
dialogue.
sense?
What's that?
I said, how did Guardians of the Galaxy make more sense than what you just described right now?
Because Guardian of the Galaxy
Guardians of the Galaxy is a talking
said
tree.
James Gunn said, "I'm going to actually tell a story and give you likable characters that have story arcs." That's why.
Well, yeah, I mean that what you described doesn't even have to do with like story. It's just But yeah, whatever.
Listen, none of the characters in the Marvels, except for Ms. Marvel, right, but are likable, right? Like Ms. Marvel is likable because she's young, she's cute, and she's very, she has a nice personality. You understand? Like she appears to be a likable person. She's a big
Yeah,
fan of
I've often
superheroes, and she's a fangirl, and all that stuff kind of works for her. And so you can't help but like her. You're looking at her, you go, okay, she's funny, she's cute, she's fun. I like, she's likable. Her family, they're very likable. It's a nice, intact family. Mother, father, brother. You know, they're fun. They're funny. You know, that's about the only entertainment you'll get in that movie is the scenes with her family, her and her family. That's really it. And they should have just made a sitcom of just her and her family. Yeah, and that would be
didn't
fine.
they do that already?
I know there's a show. I don't know what. It's not a sitcom. Though. It's like it's a superhero or whatever. I'm talking about a sitcom where it's just a sitcom. Someone walks in through the door. Hey, gang. Hey, and they crack jokes on each other, and thin plots,
Yeah.
and every other line is a gag, right? And that's it. You'll love it. They'll be hilarious. You'll watch that shit.
Right.
It's that's the best I can say about that movie. Is there's a potential for an entertaining sitcom with the family. That's
Yeah,
about
I'm
that's
not
about
the
it.
type of person that hate watching stuff. It's either I'm at a point where I could tell whether I'm gonna like a movie or not. So I really don't bother. Like, I don't really give things a chance. I guess is what I'm trying
Yeah,
to
I
say.
understand. I'm at that. I knew I wouldn't like the movie, so like I said, a friend of mine kind of egged me on to watch it. So I was like, all right, I'll watch it. And yeah, I didn't like it. It's not a good movie. It's a terrible movie. It really is. It doesn't make any sense. It's like it goes back to we were talking about tropes and like the girl boss tropes. It's really that all day long. Like they become super cool besties, you know, and they play games with each other, and you know the Miss Marvel is mad at Captain Marvel because she left and didn't come back for a long time. Not Miss Marvel, the other one. I keep forgetting the black lady. I keep
I
forgetting
don't,
her name.
I don't,
But
care.
it's like okay, you know, there's no. And the thing is, there's potential for something compelling with her because her mother dies, right? And I guess she was snapped
Mm.
away, and her mother died while she was snapped away. So when she came back, her mother was gone, right? Because her mother had cancer. And I just thought, okay, that's kind of an interesting character, development there. Like, what did she do? Like, how did she handle that? And was there like some kind of guilty, conscience? Like, did they have a falling out before she was snapped away? Nope,
Mm.
just that, and they don't really explore it at all, other than she's mad at Captain Marvel, which I'm like, why are you mad at her for?
Wouldn't she be mad at Thanos?
Right, that's what I'm saying. Like, it makes because she promised to come back, and I'm like, well, she did come back. Like she's there. She's literally right there. So
Yeah.
it doesn't make any sense, And then she's like doesn't want to talk to her, at the beginning, like I don't want to talk to her. It's like okay, you know, it feels like manufactured drama, right? Like, because you already didn't care about the first movie, right? Because it's her mother is the lady from the first that was her best friend or whatever in the first Captain Marvel. I don't know if you saw it, but
No, I never saw it.
yeah. So yeah, it's I
Want
don't
to
know, and
watch
I
it?
don't know if they're supposed to be like a lesbian couple. They don't really. It's almost like it's just in the air where they could be, but they could also just be best friends. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't care.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
Really.
So. It's like it's not enough there for you to care about their friendship. You know what I mean? Like because they don't show them having a friendship. Like going through things and
Right.
like even with like that's one of my criticisms with the Falcon and Captain America, right? Like Cap giving him the shield at the end of Endgame. It's kind of like, well, where did this come from? We've only seen them in like 2 movies together, and they didn't have any adventure like exclusively just them. Where they learn about each other and there's camaraderie. Like there's nothing there. So
Yes.
why are
Um,
you giving him the shield versus Bucky? It made no sense. A lot of people, a lot of
because
fans,
that's what
hardcore
happens in the
fans.
comics.
I know, but it still doesn't make any sense.
I know from the movie standpoint, I can see why it doesn't make
Yeah.
sense.
Honestly, in the comics, it doesn't either. Because once again, why didn't you just give it to Bucky?
Okay.
Like that's your long time best. Like you literally came up together, and now you're both super soldiers. Why wouldn't you give him the shield? Versus
Right.
here's this new guy. He's great. We're friends, but to the point where it's like you can take on my legacy, not my best friend that we literally fought in wars together. It
Yeah,
makes no
no.
sense. That's just illogical. Even in the comics, it makes no sense. Not to mention it diminishes Falcon because Falcon is his own hero in his own right? So he doesn't need to become Captain America. He just needs to be Falcon. So
Right.
that's a whole other. We go
Yeah.
on forever about that one. So, but but yeah, it's a terrible movie. Um, I don't recommend it for anyone. But like I said, if you're like a normie, and that's what I'm saying. I'm talking about normies, like people who aren't comic book fans. They're not, and they're not even really movie fans, like MCU fans, right? They're just normies. They're just regular people who, you know, it's just something to do. You know what I mean? That's all. That's what I'm saying. It's for just
I don't know.
regular
I feel like
people that
I,
they don't care. They're just looking for something to watch.
I
You know,
guess. I mean,
that's
I
it.
wouldn't compare people to that just because, I guess, that example, like, I'm not a horror movie person. I don't like watching, like, scary movies. But, that doesn't mean I don't, that doesn't mean I can't appreciate when a horror movie has a good story, right? Like,
Well, of
I
course,
really
yeah, of
enjoyed,
course you can.
I think it was called Don't Breathe.
Yeah,
Like, that
uh,
was really cool.
listen, I'm not
And,
either. I'm of the same vein, but
like, I'm saying I'm a normie when it comes to horror stuff.
yeah,
But
I
that
am
doesn't
too.
mean
Yeah.
that, I'm just gonna,
No, but
I'll be
what
okay
I'm
with
saying is,
watching
what I'm,
bad
right?
movies,
I'm not saying that normies love bad stories. What I'm saying is normies who aren't they they don't care enough that it's good or bad. It's just something to do. There are people who they'll watch TV and they'll watch a TV show simply because it's there.
It's on.
Like they're not like, oh, I want to watch my favorite show with my favorite actor or actress. No, they're just like, look, I'm turning TV on because I just want, just watch something. They might say I want a comedy, so they'll find a comedy. That doesn't mean the comedy is good or funny.
Right,
They don't care. They're not saying I want a good comedy. They're just saying, oh, let's find something that's funny. Or let's find an action
right,
movie. Or let's find. That's a lot of people out there. Those are normies. They're not fans and they're not stands. They're just regular people who don't have a preference either way. That's what I'm talking about. That's why I say it's like older people and very young people who don't have, they're just kind of like, I don't care, just as long as it's not offensive and it's not grotesque or scary, I can take my nieces and nephews or my grandkids to watch it, or let them watch it, and preoccupy them while I'm, you know, doing something over here.
right,
That's all I'm saying.
right.
That's what it is. It's just filler. It's literally filler. Like it's nothing. You know, it's not great. It is awful, but it's not to the point of being offensive, right? Like there's awful movies that are also offensive, right? It's
Yeah,
like, no, this isn't it. There's nothing in it that should offend anyone. Like, and maybe that's part of the problem. I don't know. So far as the writing, right? But it's just it's just stuff happening. It's stuff happening. you know, you know what I mean? Like it's just stuff happening,
uh,
and there's this bad guy, and even she's not a real bad guy. Like what she's doing makes perfect sense. It makes more sense than Thanos. What Thanos did, right? Like she's trying to save her planet, so she's
right.
not even a real bad guy. You know what I
So
mean?
they
Like,
don't try to, like, find a better way to.
well,
Oh,
yeah, what
I
she's
don't
doing
care.
is stupid. It's scientifically impossible and idiotic. That's the problem. It's like, what are you, dumb? And then you find out Captain Marvel can just save her planet anyway by, you know, charging up their sun. And I'm like, why did they just do that in the first place? Like,
This
what
feels
is
like
what
a
is all this idiocy and nonsense, fighting and chases, and it's like you could just fix it by like Captain Marvel broke it, so Captain Marvel is a terrible person. That's another, you know She's a terrible person in this movie. They don't
Wait,
they
she
don't say
broke the
that.
sun?
Yeah, she broke their planet because she went back, after the end of the first movie,
Oh,
and she, I guess the planet, everything on the planet runs from this centralized AI system, right? So after she broke free, and defeated the patriarchy in the first movie, she goes back to this planet, to the Kree planet, I think it is, right? And she destroys
uh,
the AI system for some strange reason, right? Because she was pissed. I don't know. She destroys it,
oh,
and but in doing so, she destroyed the whole planet. So everything, nature, the food production, the sun, the moon, the air, everything broke because
cool.
yeah. How that happens, I don't know. Breaking a machine
Oh,
destroys nature.
that's awesome.
Yeah, I don't know how, but it's like, how is it that you blamed an entire planet for what a few bad actors did? That's the part she's a terrible person. she's not
Well, I mean,
she's not a
that's
hero at
it's
all.
comic accurate. She's
Yeah,
a terrible person in the
she's
comics too.
yeah, she's not a hero.
That
She's a
works
terrible
out.
person. She broke someone's planet because she was mad at a computer. Like, why not just go to the planet and tell everyone what happened? Like, hey, this guy who's this high-ranking officer tried to destroy me, and he lied to
Because
me and
that
gave
would
me fake
make
memories or
sense.
whatever. And the AI was manipulated somehow, so you need to reboot that AI and reprogram it. I don't know, something like, you know what I mean, like, and let's fix this together. I know it's not everyone's fault, because you're talking about billions of people. You,
Right.
that makes no it makes no sense whatsoever for a hero to do that, right? So she can't be the hero; she must be a villain. And they
Just
completely
think.
gloss over it in the movie, right? She confesses to doing it, and they're like, oh. And then like minutes later, they're apologizing, like, oh,
Oh,
sorry for making you feel bad. It's like, what? She just confessed to genocide. Like, she destroyed a planet and then allowed another planet to be destroyed because of her actions. It's like, why isn't she in jail, like arrested or banished, something?
what a
It
spaceship.
makes no sense, man. Like, it's a terrible. That's what I'm saying. I can keep going. It's a terrible movie.
Yeah, please stop.
It's a terrible. It's
Yes.
like the more you think about it, the more you're like, this is insane. This movie makes no sense.
That's why I never watched it. I knew it wouldn't make sense.
Yeah, it's awful. It's awful. So, you know, it is what it is. This is modern day, you know, uh, big budget movie making, right? A la Disney. So, and Sony and Warner Brothers, they're all in it to get they're all in it to create terrible stuff for some reason. I think it's just for money because they get funding for propagating what's been branded woke ideology, right? And they're incentivized, so they're incentivized to make bad movies. That's really what's going on, and we've seen it. A lot of different channels have been talking about it more and more. The whole DEI, right? Diversity, equity, inclusion, where they just check boxes and they get money. So as long as you check that box for gay, black, female, and whatever other perceived minority class, whatever, you're gonna get some. You're gonna get millions of dollars of funding, right? So doesn't matter if the movie makes money or not, because they can probably write it off. They'll make money by pushing it in their streaming or something.
Right.
They figure it out. Even if they never make money, right? It never makes. It still doesn't matter because they already got funding. They already, like I've been saying for the longest time. I think the modern day um, entertainment industry, especially with these big studios like Disney and Warner Brothers, it's sort of like they're basically laundering money, right? They're spending millions upon millions, hundreds of millions of dollars on something that probably shouldn't cost even half what they're spending. So
Right.
where's that money going, right? It's going to inflated salaries. It's going into inflated prices for certain things. Whatever that is, like craft services or something, or to pay for trips. To
Yeah.
justify, oh, we had to fly here to, excuse me, to do research. Etc. And they're probably paying their buddies and their friends. Then the people on the
The
board get their
special effects people
bonuses.
sure aren't getting paid. We know that.
Well, yeah, that's what. Yeah, and sadly, they're kind of at the bottom of the rung, right? They're at the bottom of the pyramid where it's like they're getting the scraps, So they're not ironically as much as the industry relies on VFX artists and production artists and animators, etc. Digital artists. They're at the bottom of the rung, right? They're getting the scraps. They're not getting the lion's share of that DEI money, right? And that's unfortunate, because the industry really couldn't survive without these guys. Um, I mean, I'm an artist. I went to school. I was majored in studio arts and all that, and, graphic design. I'm a web designer. I'm a digital artist. I've done, so I understand like how it works. I've done illustration on a poster, movie. I've done stuff like that, and it's like it's not an easy job all the time, especially when you're doing someone else's stuff. You're making someone else's vision come alive. It's not easy. It is hard work, and especially when you get into long hours in front of a computer,
Mm-hmm.
it's not healthy. And a lot of these guys have families. It gets pretty bad, and it's like it's really frustrating to see hundreds of millions of dollars spent, and we get these terrible movies. I mean, imagine being a VFX artist or animator, etc., digital artist, technical director, and you're working on this stuff, and people are clowning it. People, the movies are bombing in theaters, and it's like
Yeah.
you 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 participated in that, and you tried to do the best work you can do, and it's like, but then it bombs and it
Yeah.
gets
And it's
derided.
not their fault.
I know that. That's my point. It's like you have no control over that. You're doing your job. It's like at
Mm-hmm.
least as a director, writer, producer, etc., executive, make something good so that these people that are helping you make this movie or TV show or whatever can be proud of it. They can look at it and go, "Yeah, I'm proud I worked on that. That did very well in the market. People loved it. It was memorable. It was a great story, etc." Right? And you know, unfortunately, I mean, it still lends credibility to know, hey, I worked on these movies because I'm an expert. I'm a professional. But you still want to be able to, you know, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, I worked. Like, think about Endgame or Infinity War, right? It's like, yeah, if you worked on that, man, you're like, heck yeah, I did that, right? You know what I mean?
Right.
It made $2 billion. Like, yeah, man, I'm proud of that. Versus, the Marvels or Madam Web, more recent, right? It's like
What?
Madam Web. That's
Oh,
another one that
isn't
bit the dust. So it's not.
what is that about? Is that a Spider-Man thing?
Yeah, well, from what I recall, back in the '90s, there was a animated series about Spider-Man. Right? It was very well done.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I
love
remember
that. Love
that.
that series. And in it was a character called Madam Web. Now I don't know if she was created for that show or if she was from the comics. Right? That I'm not aware of.
Mhm.
But she, over the years, she became more popular. And I believe they did, do comics featuring this character going forward, right? So it makes sense to say, hey, let's like explore this character in a movie. I don't understand why they're doing a standalone movie for it. That's the part that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Versus doing it with Spider-Man, right? But yeah, they made a movie. It's about this character, Madam Web, and apparently there's additional characters like other Spider female characters, Spider Woman character. Because there's a Spider Woman, and now we know there's Spider Gwen, right? That's more recent. But there was Spider Woman back in when I was a kid, when I was growing up in the '80s. There was a Spider Woman animated series, right? It was good. I enjoyed it. I don't. Once again, I think she may have been created for television, and then subsequently comics, right? Just like Harley Quinn, right? I don't believe there was a Spider Woman prior to the animated series. That's so. So I believe it's the same with Madam Web. So I have to look that up. But yeah, so the movie, it's not getting very good reviews, even from the mainstream. It's not well received. It's doing terrible in the box office. It sounds like a terrible movie just from what I've heard and watching movie reviews. It's just not good. So that might be another one that I'll watch just to see for myself. Because I'll be honest, when the trailer first dropped, I was kind of like, oh, that
Was
looks
it a
interesting.
trailer?
Yeah, that was the trailer dropped. I think a few months ago, like 2 or 3 months ago,
Oh,
and
is that the
it's the one where they're running from this Spider-Man like person in the streets and all that. It looks very kind of mysterious in that sense, and that kind of intrigued me because I thought, okay, Madam Web, and then the trailer shows this spider dude. It's like, oh, who is this guy? Like, is he a future Spider-Man, or is he some kind of Spider-Man who is, like evil somehow? Like, I don't know. It was interesting from my perspective initially seeing it because I thought, okay, this is kind of intriguing. But then as they released more trailers and you saw different variations, you're like, okay, well, it's not really making a lot of sense. And then finally, when the movie came out, watching the reviews, it's like, oh, okay, it doesn't make sense. And in fact, I saw a couple of reviews where they're like, what you saw in the trailer, most of that isn't even in the movie. So it's kind of like,
is
oh,
that the line where he was like, is that where the where she's talking about how uh I guess her father was in the Amazon with
yeah,
my
no,
mom when she was
yeah, as a mother, yeah,
inspired, right?
yeah,
He
the
died.
mother gives birth in the Amazon, then dies, and then some spider people save her or save the baby. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. It's weird because it's like
Yeah, I from what I
to
have
me it
heard,
makes no
the dialogue
sense.
kind of sucks.
Yeah, it makes no sense because it's kind of like the Flash in the Speed Force, right? Where the Flash is the Flash, right? And
Yeah,
his powers came from lightning, and certain continuities and others it was a bullet, right? Previous, but either way, he was fast. Then they
yeah,
introduced the Speed Force. So now the Speed Force is just this something that exists, and it's part of some phenomenon, and he taps into it. And so it's like, okay, so that means the Speed Force existed before him, and then somehow the lightning or the bullet allowed him to tap into it, I guess, right? Whatever, right?
right,
We've pretty much accepted it as part of his continuity. With this,
right.
what they're doing is saying this kind of the same thing with Spider-Man, where it's like Spider-Man is really part of this
So
spider.
there's a spider force.
Well, I wouldn't say force, but that's kind of what it implies, just from the bits I've seen. Right? It's like there's this web, like she has premonitions where she can see the future and all that. And so, and I'm like, well, what does
So
that
it's
have to
no
do with?
longer
I guess like
a radioactive
well,
fire.
like his spider sense, right? But it's spider sense on steroids because she can actually see the future versus Peter Parker senses danger, right? Before it happens, So
Hmm.
to me it kind of diminishes Peter Parker and Spider Man, right? Because now it's like, well, wasn't it accidental, right? It was a radioactive spider, so it was a spider that was experimented on and somehow enhanced or infused with radioactive energy, right? And that's what
Right.
unlocked transferred these abilities to Peter Parker, and he becomes a Spider Man, right? So he's unique. He's this unique hero. But now it's like he's not unique anymore. You already have the Spider Verse, and they say, well, at least within his universe, he's unique. And then you're just saying, well, there's parallel worlds where he has doppelgangers, right? Or what happened to him happened to a different character like Spider Gwen, right? And it's like, fine, whatever, right? They're still unique within their respective worlds. You understand? But now with
Mm-hmm.
this Madam Web stuff, and it's kind of like, because I always thought Madam Web was from the future, where Spider-Man becomes an even bigger hero, and it leads to
Mm-hmm.
like different things, genetic evolutions, and like his offspring, and other experimentation. You understand what I'm saying? In other words, Peter Parker slash Spider-Man is the catalyst that leads to this quote unquote Spider Verse that leads to a Madam Web. That's how I always thought
Mm-hmm.
Madam Web was. Like my suspicion was always she's some kind of distant descendant, like a great 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 granddaughter or niece or something like that. Like she's
Oh,
part of
okay.
his lineage. That's just me. That's just my theory because I haven't
Well, I
explored
get it.
beyond the TV series. So
Yeah.
so now it's like, well, I guess she isn't. She's part of his past somehow, and it's like, how does that even line align? You know what I mean? Like it doesn't make sense.
Neat
Like
thing.
you understand? Like it's kind of like what? So and that's what this movie is it's supposed to be the past where she knew his parents and all this kind of stuff. And it's
Mm.
like okay, I don't like whatever. So
Yeah. Yeah. Whatever. That's what
yeah,
I
because
just said.
it's like it's not lining up, and and I know maybe they're not intentionally doing this, but it diminishes Spider Man. It makes him
Less special.
yeah, like you know what I mean. Like it's kind of like what's the point anymore? Like for example, Batman in parallel, right? Everything comes from Batman. So Robin,
Mm-hmm.
Batgirl, Batwoman,
Nightwing
Nightwing,
and
Batwing,
Hood.
etc. They're all extensions of Bruce Wayne Batman. Meaning,
But
if
there's
he
only one Batman.
if he never became Batman, these other characters would exist. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
they're inspired by the main character.
Right.
And what Madam Web is doing is flipping it around and saying, well, no, Madam Web was first. Or at least that's the implication, right? It's like, no, there was this, cabal of spider people who worship spider. I don't know, who can see the future, whatever. It's kind of like, oh, so Peter Parker is just a cog in the machine, right? He's not really special at all. You understand what I mean? Like even the Spider Verse stuff is kind of doing that, but it's a fine line. It's getting to be a fine line because, like, um, what was it called? Into the Spider Verse, the
Mm-hmm.
second one, right? Where now you have this whole spider world. You understand? It's like, well, what's so
Oh,
special about Peter Parker then? Nothing, because there's other Spider-Man from other dimensions, and they're
right. But
all
we don't care
variations.
about Spider-Man.
Right? We don't care about them, but there they are. You understand? Like that's all. It just continues to diminish him as a character because it's like, well, what's essential? It's different if, like, once again, a parallel with Fantastic Four and the
The Council of
Council of
Reed.
Reeds, right? It's like, yeah, because Reed Richards is special, right? And in every
Right.
reality, he's special, but especially our reality, the one in our is very special. And when you read certain runs, like Jonathan Hickman's run, especially, I really like him. It's like he is because he does something that the others didn't. He put his family first. That's how you differentiate that Reed, our Reed, from the rest of the Reeds, right? Is that he put his family first. He said, I'm going to put my children ahead of what I want to do and make
Right.
them good people, right? It's very powerful.
Right.
So that's all I'm saying. Because so even then, when they did the parallel worlds and the Council of Reeds, they realized, yeah, but we don't want to diminish the main character. So let's differentiate him. And what does that is the fact that he chose his family, that he has a family, and that he chose them over the council and over, right? And that's what I'm saying. It's like that's kind of what they're doing with Miles Morales, which they should have been doing with Peter Parker. In the movie where he chooses, he doesn't choose to go along with the Spider-Man Council, whatever it is. He decides to do his own thing to, you know. So it's like,
So
yeah,
this,
that should
yeah,
be Peter
same as
Parker.
dad.
What's that?
Yeah, the same as dad.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's what I mean. Like, okay, but you're just diminishing Peter Parker more and more. Right? So that's my 2 cents on that. So yeah,
I mean that's fair. I mean,
I
as someone
mean,
who
it's like
as someone who likes the Spider Verse movies, it doesn't really make me care to
I like them
read.
too. I like the first one, especially. The second one is okay. I don't think it's
uh,
as good as the first one. So
Yeah,
I do.
I,
They're good, but at
but
the same,
it doesn't make me want to read the comics. Is
yeah,
what I'm
it
getting at.
doesn't make me a fan of Miles Morales in that sense, right? Especially not over
Yeah,
Peter Parker. It just makes me want to see more Peter Parker. Like as
yeah,
I'm watching Spider Verse, the first and the second one, I'm like, oh, this is beautiful animation, story's pretty cool, characters are cool, and I'm like, man, I wish they'd do this for Peter Parker. That's what goes to my head. I wish they'll make this kind of movie for Spider Man. Like do the
for
same
Peter.
animation, everything. Like, but just make it a Spider Man movie. That's what it does. It just makes me want more Spider Man, not more Miles Morales. I mean, you understand? It just does. It doesn't. And I'm not trying to knock the character. It's just that's the facts. It makes me want more Spider Man, not more Miles Morales. Just like Spider Gwen, like they focused on her in the second movie. Awesome. Be nice to see Spider Man have these kind of stories, right?
Yeah,
You understand? It just makes me want more Spider Man. So,
right.
which is fine, I guess. It's like I hope Sony listens and actually makes more Spider Man movies. Animated especially. That'd be awesome. So
Mm.
it is what it is. But so, but yeah, that's for my ranting, I guess. Uh, it's been a while. It's 11:40, so I think it's a good space to cut the stream and
No worries.
go about
Oh,
our day.
and before I forget, I made a couple mistakes in the last stream. I kept confusing uh, Frank Miller with Alan Moore,
Oh yeah,
but I meant to say Alan Moore. Alan Moore is the guy who worked on um, The Watchmen,
right,
not Frank Miller.
right.
I think it's because they both write dark stuff.
Yeah, you're not the only one.
But
A lot of people do.
yeah,
I've
but I
noticed.
meant to say Alan. I meant to say Alan Moore. Sorry, Frank Miller. Sorry, Frank Miller.
Not to be confused with
It's not your
Mark
fault. It's
Millar.
Alan Moore's fault.
Yeah,
It's Alan Moore's fault, not yours. But yeah.
yeah. Just blame Alan Moore. Both are great writers. So
I think Alan Moore has a genius for creating uh, uh, dystopian and gritty settings
yeah,
and world building. I don't think he has an understanding of, uh, of people and what inspires people. So
well, I think he does, but I think he just maybe doesn't care.
doesn't care.
Yeah,
Yeah, probably the latter.
yeah.
Probably the latter.
Because
Yeah.
look, I mean, a lot of these writers are very talented. Alan Moore is very talented, right?
Mm,
Frank Miller. I mean, these guys are where they are for a reason. They
of
know
course.
how to write probably pretty much any type of style or genre, right? And they
For sure.
choose to do what they do because it's something that resonates with them, something they like, and something that maybe the market demands, right? But if
Mm,
they wanted to, I'm sure you could write the most amazing Superman story, right? And it just has all the bells and whistles, and I'm sure he could, because he's a talented writer. So I think we have to understand is a lot of these writers, they write what they want to write, and a lot of that may stem from their worldview, just how they perceive the world. Um, but so they have the luxury to write what they want to write because they know they have a fan base and people are going to read it, right? So I just leave it at that. I think they understand. It's just maybe they just don't agree with it. It doesn't resonate with them, and that's fine. For me, it's just a matter of look, what I want to see is what I'm creating. Right? We're creating something that's going to be inspiring and full of hope, wonder, adventure, um, and heroic heroes, not cynical, depressed heroes, and you know, but heroes who want to do what's right, right? Who want to face
Yeah.
adversity and overcome it, and because that to me, that's what I want to see, and that resonates with me. That's what inspired me throughout my life, growing up and engaging in popular media, right? And I think it's the same for you, you know. And so that's why we're doing it.
Yeah.
So kudos to them, um, you know. And like I said, Watchmen is great. I don't, but it's like I don't want. I think what happened is we got this sort of because it did so well. Then we get later on we get the Dark Knight series, and then we get excuse me, we get Injustice,
Injustice.
Superman, and it's like and they all do well, right? Because it's like whoa, and like I said, I like Miracle Man. Like I've read that 3 volume series, and it's it's dark, it's gritty, it's but ironically though, by the end, it's a bit more hopeful. It's like it's very interesting. It's very well written, and it's one of my favorite, comic book graphic novel runs. And that's dark, but at the same time there is elements of, like I said, especially by the end, where there's hope for the future, right?
Right.
So it's not all bad, it just depends. But I think there's been a kind of an oversaturation, right? Um, and especially when it bled over into the movies, you know, like Man of Steel,
Hmm.
etc. And it's like, yeah, I think at this point it'd be nice to kind of reverse course, let's kind of, it's like we kind of veered off too far, so let's kind of bring it back to, you know,
Right.
to the road where you have a little bit or a lot of bit of both, right? It's not just leaning towards that dark gritty all the time, but there is still hope as well, right? Hope and happiness and heroism and the celebration of those things. Right? So, but yeah, so let's call it quits. Let's move on. And it was a great stream. Appreciate your time again. Thank you for those who watched, who engaged, and anyone watching afterwards. Thank you for watching. Appreciate it. Please support our campaign. Will be starting up later this year. But until then, check out our website. Get a sense of our story in the world and some of the characters that we'll have in this series. You can get some breakdowns and bios, etc. Enjoy some of the great art that's on there. And sign up and get notified. Stay in touch with us. And thank you for your support. Have a wonderful day.
We'll see you around.